The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 17th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
The apostles said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." The Lord replied, "If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted and planted in the sea,' and it would obey you. Who among you would say to your slave who has just come in from plowing or tending sheep in the field, 'Come here at once and take your place at the table'? Would you not rather say to him, 'Prepare supper for me, put on your apron and serve me while I eat and drink? Later you may eat and drink'? Do you thank the slave for doing what he was commanded? So you also, when you have done all that you were ordered to do, say, 'We are worthless slaves. We have done only what we ought to have done.'" The Gospel of the Lord. So you know what I want? I want more. And it doesn't really matter more of what. I bet you do also. Because if it's good, or if it's enjoyable, or if it's helpful, I want more of it. It is a natural human desire to simply want more. And it really doesn't matter how much we have, we still want more. Sometimes we want more for our own security. Because after all, we're not entirely certain what the future is going to hold. So a little bit more in my 401k, that could be a good thing. I'm just looking out for my security. But it's not all selfish. Sometimes we want more for others. Other people need things, and we want more peace, more justice, more help for those in need. And if we had more, we'd be able to do more. So we want more. And sometimes we want more because honestly, we actually need more of some things. I mean, who here can honestly say, even over the last few weeks, couldn't have used more time or more energy to deal with some of the stress and the problems of daily life? Sometimes we need more. And we want more. We know, of course, that more is not always a good thing, but more is usually only bad when it's like more dessert. That probably is not a good thing. And when we want more of something that sounds kind of selfish. If I want more power, if I want more fame, that's bad. But more of a good thing, that's got to be good. And that's why the disciples' request to Jesus for more faith seems like a perfectly reasonable request. After all, faith is trust and confidence in God. It empowers people to do things that they would otherwise be afraid to do. And it gives people hope in the midst of difficult situations. So when the disciples go to Jesus and they say, "Jesus, give us more faith," sounds absolutely reasonable. Of course they want more faith. Wouldn't you? I want more faith as well. And that's also why Jesus' response to the disciples is really kind of strange and cryptic. Can't exactly figure out why Jesus sort of seems to slap them down for this request. It's not part of a larger parable or anything, but it seems that what Jesus is doing here is he's criticizing the disciples' request for more, even of a good thing like faith. He says to them, "You know what, you guys, if you had more faith, so that you, no matter how much you think you got, if you even had a little tiny bit like a mustard seed, you would be able to tell this tree to go be uprooted and planted in the ocean." And really, who would need that to happen? Well, why would you want to take a tree and plant it in the ocean? But maybe that's the point. Maybe Jesus is saying to his disciples, you know, if you had even more faith than you got right now, you would be distracted and you would start to focus on things that you don't really need to be focused on. Things that you don't need to be doing, like telling trees to go be planted in the ocean. Maybe Jesus is telling his disciples, and maybe he's telling us too, that they need to consider the faith they have right now. And maybe what he's calling them to do is to focus on using the faith they already have, instead of simply asking for more. So maybe part of Jesus' point here is that the desire for more, even more of a good thing, can be distracting. It can distract us from appreciating what we have. Because sometimes we end up dreaming of what if. I know I do that. Don't you ever do that? Man, if I had more money, if I had more time, if I had more opportunities, this is what I would do. Maybe I would move a mountain, which is another version of the story, or tell a tree to go be planted in the sea. What if I had more? And that distracts me from appreciating what I have right now. Sometimes the desire for more, even more of a good thing, can distract us from using what we have because we're hoping or we're waiting for more. I have said this, maybe you have too. I will help when I have more time. I know it'll happen eventually. I will give when I have more money. I will deal with this problem when I have more bandwidth and I just have the energy to think about it. Someday I will have more, and until that day comes, I'm not really going to do a whole lot right now because I'm distracted waiting for more. Sometimes the desire for more, even more of a good thing, can distract us from focusing on what we can do right now. Because quite frankly, telling a tree to be picked up and planted in the sea sounds like it could be really cool. You know, it would be a neat trick. Somebody would pay attention to that. That's a lot more fun than doing the routine and the mundane things that I can do right now. The small acts of help and love that I might need to give to my neighbor, the things that God might want me to do that just seem like the same old things that I did yesterday. But maybe those are the important things that Jesus is calling me to do. Maybe they're the important things Jesus is calling you to do that don't require more than a mustard seed's worth of faith. It just requires not being distracted by the desire to have more. Because often we get distracted by the desire to have more, even more of a good thing. And so in the midst of a world which constantly tells us that we should have more, Jesus calls us to be thankful for what we already have. In the midst of a world that tells us that we should constantly want more, Jesus calls us to actually take what we have and use it. And in the midst of a world and in our own lives even, in which it is easy to feel like we really need more, Jesus is promising us that God is even right now providing all that we actually need for this part of our journey.